The question that I have for both of you is, do you feel like in dating there's a double standard between men and women? I don't think it's like a cliche, but you know, if a woman dates multiple people, then she's seen as a hoe. But if a guy has multiple women that he's dating or he has a hotation, then there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why I would say that it's slightly different. But besides that, I don't necessarily see. What's a hotation? A hotation is when you're talking to or sleeping with more than one person.
Is it talking to or and sleeping with, or do you have to be sleeping with them or talking to them? Which one?
I think it could be both.
If you're talking to more than
if you're talking to more than one person, I would say that's dating. But if you have like multiple people that you're sleeping with in a rotation, I would say that's a hotation.
A hotation, okay. What do you think?
I hadn't heard that yet. I've heard that before.
So you're introducing new words.
Yeah, learning, education. I definitely think there is differences in what is expected on each. Like if you look at what's commonly expected from years and years ago, men should make money, right? Women should stay home and raise children. And now we are branching into this era where we're equal, right? Like a woman can go and have just as prosperous of a career as a man can, sometimes making more money. So like we're changing that social norm, we're changing that what you expect to see in a relationship. And I don't know if we're changing those double standards that we talk about. Like just like a man can have multiple women and it's fine. A woman does it and like walking down she's shamed pretty much high school for anybody.
The double standard for women is they're just like not expected to have a hotation. They're not expected. I think earlier in this segment we called it having a roster or hotation, roster, hose, sidelines. We talked about thirst traps a little bit. So just like on this topic of monogamy, do you guys feel like it benefits men more than women, or it benefits women more than men, or it benefits or doesn't benefit both equally?
I mean, I guess it depends on what your end goal is. Like, some women don't want to be tied down to one relationship, and that's fine. So monogamy would not benefit them. But for those people that want that secure base, like that person, like that they know is always going to be in their corner, men or women, like they have that to come home to. They know, like, okay, I had a bad day at work, I know I can go home and tell her about it, she's going to be there for me. Whereas like if you don't have that and you don't want that, that's when you get into those hoe tendencies. And you like, I'll just go down the roster, like,
yeah,
if that's not what you're interested in. I feel like monogamy it can be very beneficial in for multiple reasons. Like, you have that person. Like, studies have shown, like, people who have that companionship and that relationship, they have less illnesses. They recuperate faster when they are ill. Like, there's a lot of studies that show having that contact with people is actually beneficial to your health. So
interesting. Tell me more about the health aspects, because you're in the health industry, yeah? Tell me more. I love when experts come. Tell me more about the health.
Expert.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, you're in the industry. Tell us more.
There have been studies shown, like, people that have had heart attacks, and those who have monogamous, satisfactory, like marriages or relationships, they have a longer life expectancy after a year, rather than those who don't, because they know they have somebody there helping take care of them. They have, like a caregiver almost. And, if you're on your own doing it by yourself, that's a lot. Now you have health problems on top of other things going on in your life, and you kind of get burdened by all of the stress. So I feel like when you're in that monogamous relationship, like the study shows, like you'll benefit from it in more ways than just,
interesting. And I suppose the finding of the monogamous relationship, I don't think it would necessarily be fair to say it benefits men more than women, because, like, in theory, they would be getting in relationships with each other. Although men and men and women and women, but that's just, like, going across, like, gender norm lines. Okay, interesting. Back to you with the loaded question. Do you have some feedback?
I feel like monogamy benefits the person, woman, male or female, who wants to get married. And I say that because if you're trying to be in a monogamous relationship, hopefully, or I'm thinking that you're probably wanting to be with that person and lead it to like long-term something. But if you're not trying to be in a monogamous relationship, then of course you're trying to get whatever, date whoever, or maybe even try to figure out who you are as a person. So that's why I feel like it just benefits the people that want that relationship long term, and that's why I say people that are looking for marriage. So if you're not necessarily looking for marriage, then it won't necessarily benefit you, because you can always, even if you're monogamous with one person, and if you're not looking towards marriage, there's always a thought, oh, I can find someone else, or I can hop to someone else, or I can just go back to my hotation if I want to.
Because you don't have those,
right.
That commitment time,
Right,
like,
right. So that's why
legal and like actual commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it benefits the male or female that is looking towards marriage.
What about people who want to be monogamous but they don't want to get married?
I feel like if you want to be, why don't you want to get married is the point. Like if you want to be monogamous, you want to be just with that person for the rest of your life, and you don't want to go back into a hotation, you don't want to like switch to someone else, you just want to be monogamous with that person, why is marriage not a thing? That's the question I would ask.
I think that there's plenty of people, like even like celebrities, like
Right.
Lisa Bonet and Jason Momoa. Like how long were they dating? Like 15 years before
Right.
they got married, and it was never about marriage. So like, what is marriage? And I think it depends on what marriage is to you.
Right.
Is it a symbol to the rest of the world? Hey, this is mine, or is it like
I'm just showing you off, or
Right.
I'm just showing my rock off,
right?
or
What
status
exactly
thing.
is it? Because you can be in a very committed and loving relationship, and if marriage to you means like this is my union in front of God or whatever,
Right.
you know, like if you're religious, that's one reason you get married. But if you're not, like, what is it? Like,
Right.
is it a social thing? Like, I feel like I'm this age, I need to be married. Is it,
Right.
I have a kid, I need to be married? Like, what is it that's driving you
Is it an
towards
extra
marriage?
check?
An extra check? Yeah, that could be
Extra help, you know,
Tax
what is
break?
it?
Yeah.
There's actually, I'm not an expert on this, but there's actually some studies that show that the more money both partners make, it might be less beneficial to get married for tax purposes. But that's another conversation for another day, probably with a tax lawyer.
Right.
We're out of time, but thank you both so much for coming. Appreciate
Thanks.
you having this little small chat with me.
Thank you.
If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed and following us. And keep an eye out for our polls and live events. There's lots more content coming soon.